Nigga, we ain't gotta be nice. Nigga, we ain't gotta sell drugs. Nigga, we really rock right, nigga. Nigga, we truly godlike, nigga. Nigga, we been building space stations. Nigga, we are the United Nations. Nigga, the globe is too small, nigga. Niggas will always run y'all, nigga. Nigga, we are worth support, nigga. Nigga, we really are important, nigga. Peace, black people. We are important. We are worth supporting. You tuned into the Elevation Sessions powered by my book, 200 Years from Niggas to Guys, a guide to becoming a mature nation. This session is rooted in chapter 3, getting to know your neighbor. But what it really speaks to is the necessity of opening up your minds, not just to the people around you, but to new ideas, new understanding, and new ways of moving in the world. Because the more we know, the more we grow. And when we grow with each other instead of apart, we become harder to break. Today, my guest is Neal. And from the first time we spoke, I could tell he was a thoughtful, intentional, and full of perspective. Neal is college educated, a little older than me, and carries himself with full of kind and wisdom that comes from a real life and deep introspection. I invited him on not just to talk, but to connect the dots between what he's lived and what this book is trying to help us all live up to. So what's up, Neal? How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you for the kind words.
So we'll get into it. We're gonna start with how we get through power through perspective. So one of the quotes that I have in my book is to limit ourselves to only what we know is to live in a cage. And the more we understand about the world, the more powerful we become within it. So I'd like to ask you, how has learning beyond your upbringing helped shape who you are today?
Well, learning beyond my upbringing is just critical because as a child, you just know what your immediate surroundings are, and that's all you know. And as you grow, you expand in terms of the people that you come in contact with, and
Mhm.
your understanding of yourself. Through the majority of my childhood, my mom was confined to a wheelchair. So I came to realize that I was having a different experience than most of my friends, because
Mm.
I thought what my friends' experience was like way better than mine. And it wasn't until I got older that I came to understand that every family, every household had their own challenges. But as a child, I
Correct.
only thought about the challenges that my family had. And I didn't really understand where I was going until, by the end of my 20s, I finally realized that, after I understood that I inherited my family trait for substance abuse, and just kind of fell into that whole thing. And I really had to understand who I was, being clear eyed and sober. And so, and I became more open to understanding people, listening to people is just really critical to my growth. Even though I went to school and I was educated, my mind was in my youth was very closed and not open to what other experiences that other people are going through. So it's just really important for me to uh, remain open and always remain listening and be in conversation with other people.
Yes, sir. So, have you ever had to challenge your own views in order to evolve? We all go through life and we all pivot, but have you ever had to challenge your own views in order to evolve and kind of to make that pivot?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the pivots I had to make is just kind of how young men are socialized in their relationship with women. And
Mm,
as a young man, it was about how many girls you can get with and conquests and all that kind of stuff.
yes,
And
sir.
I had I'm blessed with four sisters. So my thing was when I was in my 20s is, well, I don't need another sister. So,
Right.
I have enough sisters, but that was very closed-minded of me, and it wasn't until I started really understanding that other human beings, half of the planet, or happen to be female, and they have a lot to share and I should listen and pay attention. So that was one
Correct.
area where I had to change my perspective and change my approach. And quite frankly, that didn't happen until I was, in my early 30s, to be quite honest with you, to
Uh-huh.
begin that process. So I was kind of slow to the game in really understanding. I thought that, well, I got a mother and I got uh five, four sisters, and then I
Right.
should be good and understanding women. I only knew a fraction of what I needed to learn, and I'm still learning.
I'm saying, are you still learning, or what did you do to kind of motivate that thinking? What did you do to maybe motivate not to think, but what did you do to kind of figure that out? Not to figure out that you were behind, but to figure out women. I know that's an impossible thing there, but what did you do to say, okay, like, okay, I better start. What was that trigger?
It was about listening, and it was about accepting people for who they are, and how they show up. And you know that was the key, forming uh relationships that are not based on the pursuit of sexual conquest, and
Right.
just really being able to listen and to have new friends and to have new sisters. And I'm blessed with, I have many, many, many sisters now. I don't just have
Right.
my I have my four sisters that of the family that I was born into, but I have so many other people that I am blessed to call them my sisters, and to be able to listen to them. They have mentored me. I have mentored
Hmm.
them. Depending upon the different people in my lives, I've learned quite a bit. Particularly at the age I am now. And I'm still learning.
So, this chapter here that we're talking about is all about getting to know your neighbor, which is about kind of what I wanted to say is like we need to open up and understand different cultures and understand different people. And now I hear you talk about how you have many sisters now, and I'm just wondering,
And
are,
brothers.
are are any of them from different cultures, and how did you begin to kind of understand that person and open up yourself to their culture?
Well, that part, I was kind of already open to. I was always open to different learning about different cultures. Even as a child, I was very curious about other cultures. So that part came naturally, and just as somebody who has always loved to learn, even though I had to learn to listen, or listen more deeply. But I've always had a love of learning, and always been open to other cultures. Now, I am naturally, by nature, shy, so I'm not the life of the party kind of person and all that. I
Hmm.
don't do chit chat. I don't do surface conversations. I like to have real conversations with people, and I've done that all throughout my life. And I've been fortunate enough to have friends from all walks of life. And some of my brothers and
Correct.
sisters aren't black. So,
Right. Right. Right.
I have quite a few people that I call upon when I need somebody to listen to me, or I need to vent, or
Hmm.
I need to understand, or I need to learn,
Hmm.
or they'll call me for the same reasons. And honestly, most of them are black, but not all of them. So I have a pretty wide range of friends and acquaintances. I recently moved to another place in the Bay Area a couple of years ago, and we made it a point to learn our neighbors, our next door neighbors. Beautiful Mexican American family. We've been
Yes,
over
sir.
their house. We partied with them. We
Yes,
hung
sir.
out.
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
we
sir.
did the whole thing, and so they look out for us when look out for our home when we're away. We look out for their home
Right.
when
Building a
they're
bond.
away. Yeah, and folks across the street. So we've really kind of cultivated relationships, and it's really important to have those kinds of relationships because you never know when that's going to come in handy, particularly in
Correct.
this day and time.
Correct, correct, correct. And so now, I mean that's building us right into our next segment here because this is now going to kind of the fight to build something real. Because there's a quote that I have that the immigrant story really mirrors our own, displacement, survival, and the fight to build something lasting. So I was going to ask you, like, have you ever felt like you were building something for yourself in a system that wasn't designed to support you? And then if you did, what kept you going through that, knowing that you had all those obstacles?
Well, I mean, that's kind of been my life's work. Well, actually, it has been my life's work. I've always spent the majority of my adult life doing work that is related to community building and community service. And I started out working with youth and of course youth who did not have opportunities that other people had.
Mm,
So youth who came from households that didn't have a lot of money, youth that came from households that didn't have a lot of education, had challenges with the criminal justice system, substance abuse, et cetera, et cetera. So I spent the first part of my, and that would kind of mirrored my own experience. So, I mean, that was kind of where I was coming from as a
mm-hmm.
child, as a youth. So as I grew, and as I decided to choose a career, I went into education and into community work very purposely to, do what I can to just bring as many people up as I could
Mm-hmm.
in a community setting. So I worked with a lot of community organizations throughout the years and continue to do so. My current focus is working with elders. So now that I'm an elder, I'm making sure that all of my contemporaries are staying healthy and are living
Mm-hmm.
their best lives. It's always been part of what I do is to work in a community setting. I've done that for, I'm 70 now. I've been doing it since I was 20. So I've had
Yes, sir.
a few side hustles here and there with businesses and all that, but I've always focused on doing this kind of community work. It doesn't make me rich. It hasn't made me rich. And I've had my own challenges financially with trying to maintain doing this kind of work, but it is the most fulfilling thing that I could ever think of. I couldn't think of doing anything else. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just really important that I continue to do this work.
Right. That's what I was gonna ask you. When you said it was fulfilling, because I was gonna ask you, what, like, what keeps you going? You said it isn't the money. You gotta work, a bunch. You sounds like you gotta do a lot, but what keeps you going? And I guess it's the fulfillment of, and what exactly are you doing for the youth and the elders today? I heard you say you were taking care of them and just being there for them, but are there any other things that you helping
So
them
I
out
mean,
with?
I'm at a stage now in my life where people that I mentored or taught or counseled or whatever are now doing that for other people.
Okay.
So there are now I'm not going to claim that I had everything to do with their leadership, but I had a role in it. I had my piece
Right.
of it. I
Your
had
piece.
my part of it. I
Yeah.
have there are folks that I'm not going to drop any names, but there are some
Yeah.
folks who are doing some big things in San Francisco that were the people that I supported when they were young
Okay.
and so that's one thing that I can always point to, and I see that they're doing the same thing. And then there are conversely, with there are people that I grew up with, um, who are my contemporaries. We went to elementary school together, high school together, and now I'm able to provide them support at the senior center that I run.
Mm.
It's, and we do all kinds of things. In all of my jobs, they've always been with organizations that have been full service organizations. So it's not just about one thing. It's not just about recreation, but it's also about education. It's about health. It's about financial literacy. It's about housing. It's about healthcare. So I currently work at Bayview Senior Services, and we've
I was
housed
gonna ask you that.
over, we've housed thousands of people. We do money management for people who can't manage their own finances. We have counseling services. We have substance abuse services,
What's
and
the
this
name of
is
that place again?
Bayview Senior Services.
Okay.
And so we do everything from housing, and even though it's Bayview Senior Services, we open. I'll give you an example. Last year we opened up a community market on Third Street in the Bayview that is free for low income families. So you don't have to be.
That's wonderful.
This is not for seniors. This
It
is
is.
low for low income families. And what that is you think of the food pantry. When I was a kid, my mom sent me up to the pantry to get the government cheese. Then you just
Right.
stand in line and you get what you get.
Right.
Now at our market, you can come in once or twice a month, and you get the same shopping cart that they have at Whole Foods. You take that shopping cart and you shop what's relevant for your family. So you get the protein, you get the fresh vegetables, you get whatever it is.
Right.
So we've been running that market we're going on our first year for that. We have another program called Senior Ex Offenders. Actually, we're changing the name of it, but basically, it is for folks who have been incarcerated, and they are
That's good work. They do a bunch of good work.
reintegrating into the community. And so we do um, housing, short-term housing, and we work with them in counseling, get them on their feet, help them get jobs, help them to get into non-supportive housing, and all of that. So these are the kinds of things that the organization that I'm working with now does. When I was younger, I worked with a youth organization that did a lot of those same things, but it was focused on youth. So I really
Mm.
haven't changed the focus of the work. I just kind of changed the demographic a little bit. So I leave the working with the young folks to the young folks.
Look at yourself right now. Who are you? More importantly, who do you want to be? Every day you make choices. Every day you move. But are you really living or just existing? You were never meant to be stuck. You were never meant to just survive. You were built to build, to lead, to master. Enough. The difference between staying the same and leveling up is one decision. One moment when you say, no more. I refuse to stay here. 200 years from niggas to gods. The transformation starts now.
So, you know,
Man, Neil,
so
sound like you're doing a lot of good work out there, man. I would like to also offer. I didn't know all that was involved with what you had going on. I'd like to offer my service too. If you ever need any help with some volunteers or whatnot, I'll definitely
I'm
be,
gonna take you up on that, brother. You should have said that. I'm gonna take you
I'll
up
be
on that.
definitely glad to come out and lend a hand. Definitely when I can. But definitely for sure, call me anytime. But what I was going to ask you is with all that good work you're doing, what values do you think are essential for Black people trying to build something lasting today? Like
Well,
what are some of the essentials?
I think the things that you laid out in your book are just really really important in terms of uh, uh, having a strong family bond, um, the financial literacy. I really like the work that you talked about in terms of in your book about building a family legacy.
Yes.
Making sure that you're passing something down to the next generation. I think that is critical. Um, um, regardless of what age that generation is. So, I mean, if you're 70, then you need to be talking to the folks who are 50 and 40.
Correct.
you know,
Correct.
and
Correct.
bringing them up, and they need to be talking to the generation below them,
30s and
i-
20s.
in the
Yeah.
30s and 20s. So I kind of like how you kind of laid that out very clearly in your book, and I think it's like really critical that we really do prepare ourselves and educate ourselves as much as possible so that we can look to the future, as you kind of laid out, into the next 50 years and so.
Has to have a plan.
Yes,
You have a plan, yeah. I say when we open up ourselves to understanding others, we unlock hidden knowledge, build alliances, then we strengthen the entire community. And that's what we have
absolutely.
to try to do, is strengthen the entire community. And I was wondering, can you share a time when understanding someone else's journey helped you become stronger in your own?
Mm. um
When you took a look at
Understand.
what someone else was doing and you kind of reflected and that said, okay, that helped you get through your thing or whatever it was.
I guess one of the things is like, I became a parent late. I didn't become a parent until I was in my 40s.
Mm,
And but I did a lot of work with parents. I used to work with teen fathers, did a lot of work with young mothers, and the struggles that I saw those folks going through really kind of informed my understanding of what I needed to do when I did become a parent. So
mm,
I learned a lot from those folks in terms of understanding what I needed to be prepared for, understanding what the challenges are, just the practical challenges, childcare, food,
right, right.
transportation, all
Yeah.
that
Hey,
basic that
fatherhood, it teaches you.
yes, all that basic stuff. And when I did become a parent, I leaned back on some of the folks that I knew who had already been parents. I'm like, okay, how you do this? How you
Right, right,
approach
right,
that?
right.
So there, at some point, the teacher became the student, because I needed to, I understood a lot of things intellectually, but on a practical level, in terms of the day to day, how to navigate some stuff,
Yes.
it really benefited me from building those relationships that I built throughout my earlier career of people who had already been through those struggles. So one thing
Right.
that I've learned is that it doesn't matter how old you are or what you've been through. Everybody has something that they can share with you.
Yeah, you can learn from a 2-year-old.
That's right.
You know what I
I
mean?
learn from my daughter all the time,
Yes, sir.
and always have.
Right. I mean, our kids teach us so much, even if it's just still about understanding what's going on in the world today, because they're the young ones living it.
Right. And being able to look at things from another perspective. It's like
Right.
looking at things from just a whole nother, your child will say something that's like, wow, I didn't even think about it like that.
Oh, right. So what does real community look like and feel like for you today? What does a real community, when we say we want to start a community, what does the real community look like and feel like for you?
For me, it's showing up. So that's what it is. It's like you call me, you said, "Hey Neil, I want you to do this."
Yes, sir.
Then you show up.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
don't say, "Oh well, I don't know, man. Well, what's this about?" So you show up.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I do. I show up for people, and I have been blessed that people show up for me. It I everybody that I work with, I supervise a group of people, and I tell them all the time, like, I'm gonna show you how to do my job. so that you could be prepared to take my job. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
and
Right.
then that way there's always more people who know how to do stuff.
Right.
So it is just helping people reach their highest potential, supporting them when they need support, and allowing them to support you when you need support. Because like some of us, like, well, I only, we let our pride get in the way, and sometimes we need to take a break and let ourselves be helped and supported by our community. And I have been enriched by my community. And when I say my community, I'm talking about my community of elders, my community of other service providers, my
Mm-hmm.
community of friends, my community of neighbors,
Your
just
neighbors.
my family, just
Right.
it is my community is very broad and deep. There are some people that if I ask them for something, if then that if it's outside of their ability, then I'm not going to ask them, But there
Right.
are other people who I know who have the capability and they know that if I ask them for something, they know I don't usually ask, so they're going to
Right.
be there for me. And it's the same. There are other people who come to me, and if they need something, I got it for them. So community means mainly showing up. If people need support, if people have a project that they're working on, and something that, as long as it's positive, like what you're doing, and
Yes, sir.
and then it's like, okay, hey, brother say he want me to, do a podcast. Okay, let me show up.
Man, and I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart because, as you said, some people I asked, they gave me the waffle. Some people said, "Yeah," I gave them the call. They was end up no, but I'm gonna double back to all of them. We gonna get
Yeah,
it going. I'm gonna get them back on the show. It ain't no hard
yeah,
feelings. Life
yeah.
happens. I get it. You know what
Life
I mean?
happens, and they might be good for something else. It
A
might not
hundred
have worked
percent.
for it might not have worked out for this thing, but it'll work out for something else. So I never I don't allow myself to be disappointed. If people flake on me, then it's like, okay, well, then I know who I can rely on for what. Maybe I can
Correct.
rely on them for something else. Maybe I can't. I'm not worried about it. But
Right.
I know what I can do, and I know what I'm capable of.
Because the
And
show must go on.
right, and it's really about the more you show up, the more other people will show up.
Correct. For you.
Yes.
So my last question, Neil, my last question is what did you really think about the book? What was your take on the book? How did your brother do? And what's your feedback?
Well, my feedback is I was put off by the title,
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. You aren't the
and
first.
and I was like, okay. But when I, you know, read I didn't read it because I've been really into audiobooks because it's just my job is so busy that the only time I have to to really pay attention to a book is when I'm in my car.
Okay.
So but I listened to it, and after I listened to the audiobook, then I started reading the text.
Uh-huh.
Because like, oh, okay, wait a minute, I need to go back to this chapter that he was talking about this thing here. What I liked about it was straightforward, digestible, easy to understand, practical information uh, that anybody can use, and that for for many reasons has just been, I'm not going to say lost, but not really been the focus of the Black community experience, at least in the Bay Area, or at least in California, I'll
Mm-hmm.
say. Might be a little different down south, but definitely around here the way that you laid out the step by step. Hey, pay attention to this. Pay attention. This is the family piece. This is the financial literacy piece. This is understanding your history. This is why this is important. The way you laid those pieces out were very clear, succinct. You can teach a class on either one of those chapters. And
Mm.
so I really like the format. and this is something that I'm gonna look at seeing how to incorporate. And I'll talk to you about this later. Incorporate it into some of the work that I'm doing, particularly with one of the things that we do is we work in a low income community called Alice Griffin's, also known as Double Rock. When I was a kid, it was called Double Rock, and
That's what LA.
no, it's in
Oh,
San
oh yeah,
Francisco.
okay. Yeah, huh?
Yeah, and it's right at the outskirts. It's over there by where Candlestick Park. If you remember where Candlestick Park is, used to
Yeah,
be.
yeah. Down
Only
almost at the end of
only
third.
the OGs will know where Candlestick Park was, but it was
Yeah.
right at the edge of San Francisco, and so there's this low income community. It was old projects that got torn down and then rebuilt, and now the rebuilt ones are falling apart. So we're doing some work there, and you got a lot of pissed off people who are righteously pissed off, and
Mm-hmm.
so we're doing a lot of work down there, and some of the work is about how do we lift up the generations that are there now, and how do we lift up the next generation? How do we
Right.
lift up the not only the elders of the community who are struggling to pay rent and struggling to
Survive
keep
out here.
to survive. How do we lift up their children who are like in their 20s, and
Right.
how do we
Gonna be
lift up?
left. They're gonna be
Right,
left with what you know what I mean? Yeah.
exactly. And so the information that you have in your book is just a really kind of straightforward um, kind of information. As a matter of fact, just got emailed today that one of the organizations that I work with out there getting ready to do a financial literacy series out there. So that's something that's um, really needed. And so, the,
Definitely needed in our community.
yeah. So, and then the other thing I liked about the book, and I mentioned this previously, is really about the thing about you talked about real estate, you talked about um wills and trusts and all these
Yeah.
kinds of things, and it's really important
Setting up for
seeing
generational wealth.
seeing so many families broken because of there were no wills, there were no trusts in place, and then people are squabbling over a little bit of money because
Correct.
a big mama didn't that ain't what big mama wanted. She wanted that. No, she didn't.
Right.
She wanted this. And that and it divides family,
Breaking up
even
families.
break families up even further. So
Yes.
those kinds of things, making sure that you have a plan, if you have property, what's the plan for the property? If you have some assets, what's the plan for those assets?
Correct.
Do you have insurance? Do you have things that you can leave that next generation so that it's not quite as hard or challenging for the generation that we're currently in? So, I mean, those things that were in your book or something that really resonated with me because I've had some experiences with them, myself.
Yes,
And
sir.
I've seen it a lot with particularly with the people that I work with. I see it over and over and over again. And I'm like, wow, if people would have known this or they would have tripped on this kind of information, if they had this kind of information, and put it into action, then there'd been
Right.
a lot less grief.
100%. 100%. Well, right on, Neil. This is we're gonna go and close it out. You know what I mean? So just wanted to say that y'all see that getting to know your neighbor in chapter 3 teaches us that knowledge isn't just in books; it's in people. It's an experience and it's in connection. Neil reminded us today that wisdom is earned, not given. That perspective is a kind of power, and that when we choose to understand more than just our own story, we become a force that's harder to divide, harder to fool, and harder to stop. So if any of this conversation resonated with you today, please get the collector's edition of 200 Years from Niggas to Guys, a guide to becoming a mature nation, where you get the full ebook, the audio book, exclusive artwork, and a track done by me. It isn't just a bundle, it's the blueprint. So peace, black people. We are important. We are worth supporting. These are the elevation sessions. See you next episode. Right on. Thanks, Neal. Thanks for showing up. Peace.
All right, brother.